Welcome back to part two, the second half of the first season of Rescue Me. Cousins, uncles, brothers, roommate. We are going through where we last left off. There was Roger was arrested by Johnny. The Tommy was playing that angle. You've got Franco with his issues with his daughter, left him with the grandmother and grandfather. What else was going on? The daughter was just got into the accident and was still recovering from that.
She was also got in trouble at school.
Was that in the last episode, or was that in the episode 7 and beyond?
I think that was episode 7.
I think it was 7 where that begins. Yeah. So we'll get into it right now then. So basically, we're going right from the last 6 episodes to continuing. One of the big things that is the addition, I think, in the later half of the season is Sheila becoming more and more prevalent.
Yeah.
She basically the second half of the season, she's the main female protagonist, whatever you want to call it, in his life. Before it was Janet, which Janet really does take kind of the back seat to Sheila in the second half of the season.
And it's not Karen. That's her name.
Yeah. I would question why a woman has like other people's mail in her house though, no?
Yes.
It's a little weird, yeah. Is she like I think she like is I don't know, were they credit card offers or because it sounds to me like she's stealing them.
Almost like she's got fake names that she uses type thing.
I get stuff still delivered to my house here in other people's names that lived here before me.
Yeah, but two people's names different? Like, I'd understand, like, we get mail still to the old guy that lived here before us, but, like, I don't know, you got, literally, there's the only mail that's lying around is other people's mail? Like, that's a little weird.
Yeah. It is a little weird.
So I call the second half of this season Tommy's Descent. Because it really is his full-on, and we'll get into it leading up to the climax, which is... So this show is great because the last scenes of the season, of the final episode, episode 13, do an incredible job of wrapping up these individual little storylines, but also making them that, like, you don't know everything. But what you needed to know for the current situation, you know, but you understand that season 2 should shoot right into and exploring all these little storylines that get wrapped up to at least give people enough closure to be interested for the next season, but at the same time be like, okay, I'm not worried that, like, Tommy's dying or this. It's all more emotional trauma and drama as opposed to physical danger, physical trauma going on at the end of this one, which I think is an amazing way to... Sons of Anarchy also did that well, where it was like each season would end and it would, like, they would start you the whole, like, Sons of Anarchy would do it where the episode would be very cheery for 38 minutes of it, and then for 10 minutes of it, the darkness would come in and leave all the cliffhangers and make these storylines, and that's what I feel Rescue Me did as well. I think it's a good template FX has, or had.
Mm-hmm.
So now, I know we're kind of going to, just much like part 1, we're going to go all across the season. How do we feel about Sheila and Tommy's relationship, especially knowing where it ultimately has progressed?
I don't like it. Yeah, she's crazy.
Yeah.
But I don't like it because Tommy, who's an alcoholic himself, who's a
sex addict,
knowing that Sheila is an alcoholic, like, and doesn't...
Alcoholic grieving still with her. This is 3 years... I mean, it's 3 years after 9/11, but she's still clearly grieving.
It creeps me out how he's watching her devolve in her alcoholism and her depression, and is just along for the ride. Like,
it's almost like he feeds his own with it. Yeah. Especially the last episode where he talks about how it's fun with her and they're on the same wavelength. It's almost like they're using each other to cope. It's just in really inappropriate ways.
That's where I'm starting to have a problem with the characters. I like Tommy, and then as the season goes on, it's like I don't like him right now. And then, you know, like Franco, I like him. Now it's like, okay, I don't like him again.
So I will say, are you not digging Franco all the time because of the daughter or because of he's banging heads with Tommy?
No, it's just because he's a pompous ass. Like he's always,
I agree.
I'm better.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say, having watched this before, the running theme throughout this show is some episodes you're rooting for Tommy, some episodes you fucking hate him.
Yep.
And just so we're all clear, it's not going to get any better. It gets worse and worse as far as the story progresses. From what I remember, there are pieces that I don't remember.
It's the same for a lot of the characters though that I'm having this with,
But Tommy's very much
Lou.
Oh my God, yeah, Lou.
Like who he starts cheating on his wife, and Jen and I we watch it together talking about it when we're watching it, and it's like, well, she's a fucking wretched bitch to him.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, and then it comes out that she's been cheating on him.
I love the way she reveals it too.
Where it's just like, oh, I've been seeing. I can just think of her, and it's like you had an Edgar suit. He asked me for sugar and water. She's got that Minnesota lady down fucking pat. But she's a terrible actress. She was in a horror movie, a low budget one. I don't remember what it was. I think we all watched it and reviewed it actually.
Jack Frost.
What was it, Jack Frost, where she was the cop?
Yeah.
No, it was something newer. I think it was something newer than that, actually. But anyway, she was terrible in it. Like, back then, she was okay. But now it's just like, keep her off camera.
There's something else, too, that
Are you on a boat?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to know. So... You do get a little bit more of some of the supporting cast. Now, Jen thought that Johnny was recast as the other guys, the new Johnny.
But it's just the way they bring him in.
It's just a younger brother.
Yeah, the way and they don't point that out right away.
Well, you also don't see Johnny after episode 6. Mm-hmm. It's only him, including at the mother's funeral.
Mm-hmm.
Was that his name too, though?
His name is something else. God, I can't remember. We looked into it. He's the youngest. Johnny's middle, Tommy's the oldest.
Mm-hmm.
What was his name?
There is a sister as well. I can't remember his name. If you can't find it soon, let it go.
Shit, Tatum O'Neal becomes okay.
Yeah, that's later. Stop looking ahead.
No, I was looking
love Tommy's uncle.
Yeah, Lenny Clark with the. So I felt for one thing, it is the little person black dude from Me, Myself, and Irene, and we just reviewed him in Bad Santa. Yeah. I love that dude. And by the end of the season, when he pours his heart out to the uncle, and he's just like, "How does a man so big have a heart so small?" Jen and I each had the same like, "Oh, little guy, you feel so bad for him."
Yeah.
Arlo.
Yeah, anything that guy like pops into, he's good in. But yeah, Lenny Clark is just a degenerate gambler. Tries to kill himself
and fails.
Fails because he
tries to take his buddy with him.
He didn't have enough gas. He literally ran out of gas trying to kill himself. I thought I had a quarter tank in there.
Is this heaven? Like what the fuck?
Is
that Elvis performing?
Yeah, Elvis. Yeah. What makes you think you would go to heaven? You just fucked hookers, did drugs, killed a monkey, and you're married, so it's all against your wife. Like, you think you're a gambler. You think you're going to heaven there, buddy. Come on. No. You Catholics got a weird way of looking at things.
So I forgot what the complex is called, but as you're watching the later half of the season, Tommy very much throws himself into his work dangerously. I forgot what that complex is called.
Well, it's
not
almost
a superhero complex, but
no, it's just you've lost all. Because here's the problem with Tommy at this point, and we'll just jump by the end of season 1. He's got a pill dependency. Yep. He's back to full blown alcoholism. He's prayed away his ghosts, but then they come back at him in a very disturbing and haunting manner at a very inopportune time, which then leads to Franco getting injured. Which Franco, to his credit, did say Tommy's going to wig out one of these days and it's going to be my ass on the line. And sure enough, Franco went back in there to get Tommy out of the situation and took the fucking roof collapsing in on him as a result. So and that scene, let's talk about it. I mean, Tommy literally gets not only revisited, but he's confronted by every ghost of his.
I do love that scene because he literally, from the outside world, it looks like he he goes catatonic almost, like
Well,
he
it's
didn't know
all-
where he
Stops doing
was.
everything
He's
and-
freaking out.
It's almost like Ebenezer Scrooge getting visited. They just all come at him like, you're a fucking, and of course Jimmy, in his full fire gear too. It's a very fucked up scene.
Yeah.
It is. The second most fucked up scene is when he comes at him in the middle of the street and blazes like that. I was like, holy shit. Like,
Jen, you had something to say.
Yeah, I was gonna see the one main plot line in this half of the season that we have not spoken about in regards to what leads up to Tommy's lack of focus in that scene that we were speaking of is the fact that he had to watch Billy just die right in front of him. He fell straight through the floors. I mean,
yeah,
that really, aside from everything that's going on in his home life and his side home life, like he's got that on his shoulders now too. I mean, so
and it's crazy how just after that happens, he looks for his ghost. And there's a moment
he
where
misses
he's
him.
visited by Billy, and it's very haunting.
So why is Billy now? And that makes why is Billy one of his ghosts? It wasn't his fault. Billy died. Billy went in. If that wasn't a Tommy's fault thing, that was a Billy's fault thing. So why is Billy haunting him?
Why wouldn't he see his mother too? Like,
yeah, I'm a little, and maybe that's just speaking to these ghosts. Really are just his subconscious where he feels guilty. Because, by the way, when Billy dies, I didn't remember it, but I told Jen, I go, look how they're filming this. I go, why are they showing Billy so much? He's going to die.
That he does die in, yeah.
And there's several shots before he dies, and TVs and movies do this, where Billy, for no reason, is the one highlighted of all the guys going in. And Billy's the one that goes up the ladder. And this shot, everybody else is passing by, but for some reason we're focused on Billy as he goes in. And I knew from cinematography's sake, but Billy's going to die here. And she goes, what do you mean? I go, watch, they're focusing on me. She's like, no, they're not. And then sure enough, it's Billy going up the ladder again. And I knew from that, I was like, okay, they're going to kill him here.
To the question of why he's not seeing his mom, I think it goes back to earlier on in the season where they talk about how these firefighters find them. Oh, not earlier on in the season, actually, at Billy's funeral. The ex, she says it like where like you think you love the firefighters and your family there more than you love your family at home.
Okay, but there's also two things I'm going to counter that with. A, Sheila starts in telling him that her friend says he's a vessel, which maybe he is.
Yeah.
Also, when his daughter gets into the car wreck, he briefly sees her. Now, my question is, if she may have died on the table and then they resuscitated, they don't go into it. But if he can briefly see her, it's one of two things. Either he's not seeing ghosts and it's all subconscious and he has no guilt of his mother's death, except for not seeing her on the deathbed. What it could be is just this is his guilt manifesting itself in his head. So that's why only the things that he's going to feel guilty for are what he's going to be haunted by. He feels guilty because he couldn't save the four guys, especially his cousin on 9/11. I'm sure a lot of firefighters feel guilty they couldn't get their guys out of there.
But then you also see at the last half of the season what happened during that day.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do.
He is kind of at fault because he was supposed to get up there and go, but he kept getting sidetracked.
Well, he's not at fault. I mean, the truth of it is, if he was up there, he'd be dead too.
Right.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
And that would directly correlate to it being his guilt, though.
Yeah.
But I mean, the truth of it is, if Tommy wasn't distracted by somebody who needed aid as he was trying to go up, he'd be a dead man as well. It was sheer luck that he wasn't up there.
Yeah.
Just sheer good timing of like, I got distracted, didn't make it my way up there. Because I mean, you're talking, these guys couldn't have been higher than what I think they said the 50th floor or something. Then it started to collapse when he called them. I don't think they made it to the top.
No, they didn't.
They were heading up to the 56 and the 70 something.
Yeah, and I think they were on like the emergency phone in like the 40th or whatever, wherever they weren't even to where they needed to be before it collapsed. Which,
because they got cut off by the fire.
I will say they do a good job with the flashback scenes. I've watched quite a few documentaries on 9/11, including the one by the French brothers. And I will say, with what they could do, they made it feel pretty true to form for what it was.
Yeah.
As far as when they were in the towers right before it collapsed.
Which is amazing for the time, because after 9/11, there was a tension with like these types of shows. like
oh yeah, and this
shows.
is 3 years after too. You're not talking a lot of time.
You had to tiptoe how you went back to that moment.
Yeah,
and they did a very good job at making it real for what it was.
Well,
like they did a really good job.
Also, I'll give the show credit in the writing. Like when they all come out of the bar and they're looking at the skyline, and Chief's just kind of like, I like it empty the way they left it. Like there's, you could tell there's still that anger of just fucking cocksuckers. How could they do this? There's that, we know, because if we put something up, then we're gonna forget, and we can't forget. And I feel that's a sentiment that this country's lost. Like there's a certain unity in anger, and I feel like we've directed all of our anger inward, and that's why we're self-destructing as a country. And we need, like, that's why, I mean, wars, believe it or not, bring a country together.
They do.
Everybody post 9/11. That's why Bush was allowed to throw us into a needless a war they lied about, because everybody's like, oh, they did it, fuck them, let's get them. Unfortunately, we were led astray, but that's the type of thing. Like after 9/11, for a little bit, there was some unity there.
Yeah.
And everybody had American flags. Everybody was a neighbor again, and that unfortunately was just dissolved.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys want to talk about Proby Mike? And
yes.
His luck and no luck.
Oh gosh.
So where we left off, the weird dude he saved was propositioning him for a threesome. He got freaked out and left.
Mm-hmm.
Who wants to take lead on how that started to progress from there? For poor old little Proby, who is, by the way, one of the writers on the show.
Okay.
Yes.
He's not just
really?
he's one of the writers. I think one of the head writers.
He's visited again by the guy, and
why is the dude so jacked, by the way? Has anyone else noticed the dude is oddly like old man ripped?
He's always like in that position.
Yeah, he's always got that like that's how he walks, like an ape.
He's convinced to go visit the guy's girlfriend because he hurt her feelings. And he goes, and this is the best part. He goes, and then it turns into him being invited in, them getting into a sexual act, and the guy just comes out of the closet with the camera,
but
wearing nothing but a camera.
After she gave him Viagra, and he's like, "Looks like you can go again, there, son."
Also cuffed him one
handcuffed him, and I do love that Franco is the one to recognize that he was cuffed. He's like, "Somebody cuffed you last night, didn't they?" Like he, out of all of them, understands. He's like, "Yeah, no, those are handcuff marks."
He's like, I can tell you the make and model.
Yeah, he knows his shit. He's like a magician when it comes to handcuffs.
But then, does this guy take advantage of him too, or is it just
so? Proby says he just basically watched and then like did the girlfriend normal threesome style, but he filmed it and it was all forced.
Okay.
But then, so Proby then. Because it really kind of just goes right from there to he's banging this older broad and staying at her apartment. What is with the daughter?
Yeah, it's...
Like, she hates her mother so much, she fucks him to ruin the relationship.
Yeah.
So you don't see Weirdo and his girlfriend for a while.
Well, wait. No, you do, though.
No. But he is with the older lady first, and then he comes back.
Right.
Oh yeah.
He does come back and was like, I don't want any trouble, man. Like, he basically tells him, like, when I said you could do my girlfriend, I meant when I was there, and he punches him in the stomach. Yep. But after that, you don't see him for a couple episodes, and then eventually Proby, he's stupid, so he has sex with the daughter, and he comes home to her wonderful apartment to being thrown out, and who's at the firehouse offering him a hand and a place to stay? Jen? How's that turn out?
Oh, not good for him. So he decides to stay with the creepy stalker guy that he saved the life of. And they end up drinking very heavily his first night there. And out of nowhere, after they've both decided to go to bed, his stalker comes out again.
After watching a Mickey Mantle documentary.
Yes.
Got them all Jones.
comes out full erection, just I really am not gay, but
I've never had a boner literally for another guy.
Yeah. And he's trying to rape him pretty much there.
To the point of where he ends up picking him by the feet after punching him on the ground and dragging him.
He headbutts him so hard.
Yeah, he also
where he's telling him, he's like, you could be Mickey.
he does offer him, he's like, you could do me in the ass. I don't care. Yeah. Like he does, I mean, to be fair, he's pretty flexible.
Pretty fair.
That is true.
But eventually, as he's being dragged, he gets the old mantle baseball bat and beats the guy with it.
Beats him, gets the heck out of Dodge.
Gets out of there.
I thought that there was going to be something later where he beats the guy so bad that he ends up in the hospital and then he gets arrested or something. But he does make the sound like he's still alive. I was like, okay, so this is it.
Yeah, and it hit him like in the back. I mean, but I'm going to be honest with you. If some dude fucking headbutts you like that, do whatever you got to do to fucking get out of there. Like, I don't think that would be anything but. He's literally trying to rape you. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think that's anything but self-defense, or at least it wouldn't be in normal circumstances. And then he ends up staying with Mama.
Yep.
To which he meets his next love interest through one of his Yenta mother's friends.
She plays Cupid and sets him up.
By the way, I mean, how many red flags do you need to ignore before it's like, this is not a good situation? Not to mention, Proby himself's kind of a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he is.
He's really naive. He's really...
Yes.
But I say he's a piece of shit in that... So basically, the girl that his mother hooks him up with is a friend's daughter, and she's a bigger girl. Now, this girl is shot in the head, though. And I'm not even just saying that because of the bulimia. I'm saying it as she uses her weight as her catalyst and scapegoat for everything she does in life.
For the minute you meet her, you can tell, like, there's something up.
Yeah, exactly. Like, she's bananas. Like,
and
her
when
weight...
When you hear about the family, too, like, what type of family they have, you're like, okay, this family is fucked.
Yeah, where her brother got drunk and fucking walked in front of a train. Mm-hmm. Or drunk and high. Yeah, so, like... And he's so... I guess you could call it naive. I'm going to call it dumb. He's so fucking...
He's a meathead.
But I say he's, like, trash because she tells him, like, I'm bulimic over dinner, by the way, which isn't that ironic.
Oh, geez.
And he says, like, straight up, like, that can't be good for you.
Yeah.
And then only then when she explains, well, like, this is what I was before bulimia and shows him the photo, then he changes his tune of, like, well, whatever works for you. And you could see in her face, because he basically just said, I'd rather you be unhealthy than fatter.
To add more insult to injury, later on they have another conversation about it. And he asks her what happens. And she's like, I don't know, eventually my teeth are going to fall out. I'll melt from the inside because my esophagus will be all fucked up.
All cheery.
Like, we'll deal with it when we get to that point. Like,
what? By the way,
it happened for a long time, isn't it?
How about you stop throwing up? Right? And you then also stop eating whipped cream out of the can. Like, it's pretty simple science. Stop eating what you're eating and get more exercise. You don't need to throw up. Like, if you would just choose to be healthy... What's that?
So whipped cream from a can is delicious, though.
Yes, but when your entire livelihood is based upon you're the fat girl, and that's all you... Because that's all she focuses on in the relationship.
Yeah.
From moment one... It's, you've been with your first fat chick. And then she uses that pity and that, I'm just the fat chick to get him to fuck her in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just one kind of like, I'll just eventually die from it. Not a big deal. And it's like, no, you're fucked in the head.
Yeah.
They did say that she was with a Jewish doctor for years and he never proposed or something.
Well, that's her catalyst of going bulimic because she counted it as it was her weight.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that whole situation's fucked because she's clearly using him because he's the hot guy.
Yeah.
He's dumb as bricks and she's not. So there's no connection mentally there. Like, she's using him because he's the hot guy and he's using her because he needs a place to stay in a warm hole. But I do feel he is getting to the point where he's now got emotional attachment starting to develop, and he's starting to get like in the last episode.
You see that when he has a chance to beat up Tommy.
Now, what do we know about television when the main character who isn't wanting to be emotionally attached gets emotionally attached? What do we know is going to happen?
Somebody's going to die.
Or break up.
Oh.
So we'll see what happens in season 2 as that develops, because it basically ends off with a weird peace between them two of he's going to be okay and ignorant to her bulimia, and she'll not balloon up to as big as a house, and he'll still be attracted to her. It's a weird, terrible relationship. Speaking of terrible relationships, Tommy this entire season has been fighting to get back with Janet. He's been fighting to get more time with his kids, to the point of the final episode of the show, of the season, starts off seemingly we were in confusion.
Yeah.
Because Sheila...
Like opening scene.
Yeah, Sheila's the housewife. Damien's living with him. He's talking about he needs his own room. You know, and it's very weird. And Jen and I were like, did we fucking skip an episode? Like, what happened here?
It does jump in the middle weirdly.
I was thinking the same thing.
And it was a dream, and then come to find out the reason why he's dreaming of that is because they all basically give him a bro intervention where they beat the shit out of him for fucking Sheila. And it comes out that the news she needed to tell him was she's pregnant.
Mm-hmm. So he couldn't leave. He couldn't do that.
Yeah,
which
dump her.
Speaks to Tommy's character in that sense. Tommy is a shithead character. And as you go through it, like I say, he's an alcoholic, he's a sex addict. But I will say, he loves his kids.
Yeah, he loves his ex-wife or his separated wife too. It's just an obsessive love.
So to understand that, like, she's pregnant, shit, I gotta step up. I get that from him. I figured he was going to do that. I figured that there was some way he was going to be like, shit, now I got to do something.
Yeah.
Because she's pregnant, you know? So the part I got confused though, and we'll probably get to it in a moment here, is there's a point in the last episode where he visits his ex home, and I'll just say there's a picture on
it's the final scenes of it. Yeah, you can go. So the final scenes of the episode are, he basically is told that if he sees Sheila, if he drinks, they catch him drinking on the job, he's fired because they're tired of his shit because of the thing that happened with Franco.
Yep.
And he says, well, fuck you, basically. I got 20 years in this house. I want to transfer.
Yeah.
And demands it. So the final scenes are Chief filling out his transfer paperwork, him going over to his house, seeing the envelope from Janet she never took, and then him walking into his former house, Janet's house. And what does he find?
An empty shell.
It's empty. Not only is it empty, but the picture on the wall with
appliances are gone.
The sister-in-law, or no, cousin-in-law.
Janet clearly found out she was pregnant.
Yeah, scraped her face out, and I was like, "Holy shit!" And
that means he's got 2 ladies pregnant.
All the money Janet was saving up was the money he was giving her. So I think she lied about like.
Well, she was planning it also.
Yeah.
We haven't even talked about it. Janet is also pregnant because she was drunk and came over and they had sex. And he stupidly thought that was back together. And then she had to inform him that it meant nothing. She was just horny and drunk.
Did she keep the baby though? Because wasn't she at like
I think she did keep the baby.
She went back into the door, didn't she?
Where she also tells him, you know, it was a false alarm or something like that.
Yeah.
I think she lied.
She said she got her period.
Yeah. I feel like she lied about it.
Yeah.
And that's going to be just another level.
Now, did she lie about it as in she got an abortion, or as in she actually is pregnant and just said that
that's
it was a false
where
alarm?
I'm at, because she did go back in. I think she did get an abortion. She went back in the building.
Because, it could be 2 situations. She could have gone in, got the abortion, and just told him that it was a false alarm, and meanwhile terminated it.
I'm not sold on either side yet. It's too early to tell, because
how deep is the Irish Catholic faith? Because the Irish Catholic faith would never allow that abortion.
Yeah,
that's true. Every sperm is sacred. I love that scene.
But it's easier for her to tell him that she got her period versus that it's his that it is his child, or you know, to keep it a child. It's easier for her to get rid of the problem because she doesn't want to be with him again.
That's true.
She doesn't want to give him. She doesn't want to give him more more fuel to fucking stay and keep trying to get back with
well.
And I imagine if she, because of the faith, if she told him I got an abortion, it'd just be a whole nother level of.
And it would be more, yeah.
Well, then there's the phone call. Well, also Tommy is the type of dude. You fucking killed my kid. Who the fuck do you think you are to kill my kid? Then there's the phone call where he basically tells her, you did an incredible job raising our kids, and I should have told you this more. And you could see on her face, she's got that look of just like, why didn't you do this sooner?
Yep.
And just that's like, that's also where I'm thinking that maybe she did go through with the abortion.
Well, also her plan was to leave though. Mm-hmm. So like when she's taking that phone call, she was probably packing up shit because they never show the house, just her sitting there.
Yep.
So you'd have to imagine she's in the motions of packing while he's on the phone with her.
Yeah.
And how does she clean out that entire place without anybody,
including the appliances?
Tommy? Yeah, without anybody like calling Tommy. Yeah. Saying, hey, Tommy.
Yeah.
You're moving, Tommy.
Yeah.
Because how nosy the neighborhood is.
That like him.
Yeah. So because that's the one thing she didn't like, that the neighborhood was fucking in everybody else's business.
Maybe not so much the shrink, but I think the other people would like him.
Well, see, that's the thing is like the season wraps up with basically once again he's pill popper now. And the anxiety meds and all that, full-blown alcoholic. He's got Sheila pregnant, Janet's pregnant, she was pregnant, then never had it, but she's gone now. Mm-hmm. And it literally ends with him walking into the house and it's empty, and he takes the slugger and starts beating the shit out of appliances and windows and lamps and anything he plants.
Tears it apart.
So to me, the ending of this season is really like you are seeing Tommy at bottom. He no longer has his family. He put in a transfer to his father's in Ireland for God knows how long.
Left, yeah.
They left his storyline where he's on a plane drinking Jameson. He's got his crazy uncle in his house who he doesn't want there. He no longer has his kids. He no longer has Janet to spy on. He no longer has his work family because he's transferring out of the house that he's been at for 20 years because of the drama. So he literally is at bottom with nobody.
Yeah, he literally loses it all, which I love. Yeah. I will say, and I was going to ask this eventually in this episode, your favorite episode in this season. I will say that last episode is my favorite episode. They tie everything together so well, and enough loose end to where like you're ready for the next season, but not enough to where you're like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I love that they do that.
I love the final episode because of when all the ghosts confront him. It is a very They shot it well to make it very claustrophobic and overwhelming.
It was also cool to see it because they gave it to you in two different views, from his point of view, and from what it looks like from outside.
When he's just standing there
to see that,
being confronted by nothing. I will say also, to the show's credit, they do an incredible job of making the fires realistic.
Yes,
it's always dark. It's smoky. You can't see shit. When those scenes are on, there is a heightened level of anxiety watching it, of just like what the fuck's going to happen, because they immerse you so well in it. So props to, everything from set design to special effects to all the pyro guys. Like, hell of a job on recreating what a real, like, how Backdraft did a good job, somewhat of that. I feel this does a better job than Backdraft, only because Backdraft was more like, by the way, giant flames coming down the wall. Like, it wasn't necessarily realistic. It was more like, it's realistic for a movie.
They made the flames a character in the movie, too.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it was almost like the flames were the villain in Backdraft.
I had two episodes that I liked. The one was episode 8 Inches. That just had me laughing.
So the scene between Lou and Franco at the end of that episode with the ring is priceless.
Oh, that is good.
You don't want me to. You've already been circumcised. You want me to go again, do you?
Yeah. And then the other episode that I really liked was Mom. That was
when she passed.
Because it starts out where everybody's like having their mom moments and stuff, and then it ends with Tommy and his mom that she passed.
Oh yeah.
And it ends with fucking Lou getting his ass crazy glued to the fucking toilet.
Oh no, not Lou, Chief. Jerry.
Jerry.
And he's like, God, it stinks so bad in here because he's been eating cabbage and anything he can to wreck it for her.
And he tries to get her to turn on.
Well,
the
we have. Oh, so
fan,
yeah, we haven't talked
she
about
fucking
that.
flicks the light switch off instead.
After
Jerry's story.
After Billy dies, they bring in a female firefighter who demands her own bathroom, quarters and everything.
Quarters, yeah.
So they've been individually going in there taking mean dumps to stink her out. Jerry being one of the worst of them, and he even says he's been eating Brussels sprouts and chili and everything he can. So she super glues the toilet and he gets stuck on it, and he's like, God, it stinks so goddamn bad in here. Like, he's just in the bathroom wafting in it and can't go anywhere.
And Jerry's story, though.
Hold on, Alex, what were you
gambling.
I was gonna say they can't come in because it's locked from the inside.
Yeah,
his ass is crazy glued, and he's such a short guy.
He is a small dude. Like, he's like one of those ones that like you'd see in a RPG as like a dwarf troll type thing where he like makes like it's God of War and he makes the armor. He's like that sort of dude. Like, he's just all stocky.
But he asked her to turn on the one switch, and then she turns off the lights on him.
Yeah.
And then he lights a match, and there's literally candles right next to him. So he could have solved two issues. He could have solved not having any light and it smelling bad, and then he just blows out the match.
Now we do have.
But he's a manly man. He doesn't think.
Yeah, he doesn't do scented candles. We do have the storyline of Tommy pissing off the cops leading up to the hockey game. Now, the guy who played Mungo, the one without the helmet.
Mungo. Yep.
Do you guys know what else he was from? Jen, you know, so you don't get to say anything.
I have no idea. Couldn't get his face the whole time now.
So he was Seabass from Dumb and Dumber. Kick his ass, Seabass, from the diner. And then eventually later on the truck stop. Same fucking guy. I could tell by his face. But he looks pretty good considering this is fucking a decade after Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
Just shy of a decade after. So, yeah, I just noticed that. That storyline's kind of whatever. It ends up being a giant brawl after the hockey game between the two.
Yep.
Because they hate Gavin, even though... And I don't know where Johnny's been. I'm a little like, where the fuck is Johnny? But whatever. We'll wait until season 2 for that.
I'm very much at that point.
Lou's storyline of cheating on his wife, then finding out his wife has been cheating on him, takes a weird turn where he is full on cheating with this other woman, and
wait, the other woman is not just some other woman.
She's a widow, but they were only married 6 weeks, and she hated Billy, so that's how he justifies it.
She was an ex-wife, yeah.
So yeah, ex-wife, not a widow. You're right. So he's getting more and more involved with her, and then finally and as Jen said when we were watching it, the wife has a type: short, pudgy, dull-looking men, just like Lou. And they end up. The guy comes over and they have a conversation where she wants a divorce, and I love how it ends up with he's like, "Do you need boxes?" That's how it's just
it's so weird.
Like, he walks in, he goes, "You already got my wife. What else do you need?" And then he's like, "Well, she wants a divorce," and they're sharing whiskey, and he's like, "Well, do you need boxes?" And basically like, no fucking problem. Like, because he's like, "Does she want the house?" And he's like, "No, she wants to move out." And it's just like, "Do you need boxes?" And it's like, for him, you could it's like, holy shit, like, I don't need to be with this fucking evil woman anymore.
But I do feel bad for him because when he goes and tells Billy's ex-wife / widow, when he's hugging her, you see her facial expression, and it's kind of like, oh, fuck, like, this is not what I wanted.
She wanted to be the homewrecker.
Yes, I was happy being that,
the second, the other woman.
Yeah, it was, and I imagine in the next season it's going to go bad for him. It's just gonna as well.
I mean, Jerry's storyline in the second half starts to take the sad turn when his wife throws away his money.
Yes,
she didn't remember that she cleaned it at all.
Yeah, the only thing that I kind of didn't like about that part of the story arc is it starts out with his bookie, and then it tells you, oh yeah, he's got Alzheimer's, and then it leads to his wife.
Yeah.
I just didn't like that they did the coincidence thing. Like, okay, why, they do that a lot in TV shows, and it kind of bothers me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think they did that only because Jerry is such a closed-minded tunnel vision guy that maybe the only way they thought that it would be convincing that he would see the signs in his wife is if he saw them from the other guy first, and the kid, because there's that whole scene where the guy's kid's like he's got dementia, like and then it's like he's talking to when my son gets here, and he's like, do you have another brother? And he's like, nah, just me. So I think the whole point of that is he gets to see it, and then once he sees it in her, that's how he's able to recognize it.
Like when they're at the theater and she says,
exactly. When my husband gets here, you'll have to. And I think they only did that honestly because a guy like Jerry wouldn't be the guy that would like identify the signs right away. Yeah. It would be like, what are you, goofy today? Like, come on, let's get in here. And instead, because he experienced it with the bookie, he at that point had the knowledge of like, oh shit, like this is the same thing I saw in my bookie. And then his storyline for the season wraps up very sadly, where he's crying in her arms, and she is hugging him as though of like, don't know why you're crying, buddy, but like I'll pat you on the back. I don't know who you are, but
yeah, it was messed up.
It's a very very sad ending, and he starts to break down a little bit, especially when they confront Tommy. And he's like, I got my wife's getting, tests right now and at the hospital, and I don't need to be dealing with your shit too. And so he's starting to, and it gets to the eventual point where the final scene of him in the season is, like I said, he's crying in his wife's arms. Garrity, also, for one thing, Jen pointed out, who is Garrity's big-mouthed, can't kiss girlfriend?
The lovely Indina Menzel.
Adele Azim.
Yeah.
John Travolta would call her.
Adele Azim.
Alpha.
Yeah, John Travolta, what a fucking idiot. And boy, I didn't realize how giant of a mouth she had until she was doing the weird kissing. And it does look like she's going to swallow him whole. Like, she's got a giant fucking mouth. But his final scene in the season is, because Franco's been injured, he's breaking down and crying in her arms.
Yeah.
And they don't clearly tell you, but that's why he's got nothing else to break down about. He's a fucking idiot.
But I love when he goes to
he's another meathead.
Franco and Garrity, the interaction between them. And he's like, just tell her you're gay. Works every time. And he goes in. And
the yellow bandana. Well, I saw that you had the yellow bandana.
Already knew that he's gay because of the firefighter calendar that he begged Franco to be a part of.
When he's signing the autographs. When he's signing the autographs. And the one dude's like, no, the yellow bandana means you're into golden showers. And the other guy's, no, the yellow bandana means he's into big boys. And it's like, he's just like, what? No. And he freaks out.
Starts knocking shit over.
Which, by the way, was his decision. They didn't tell him to put that bandana in his back pocket. He took it off and put it in his back pocket.
Yep.
Yeah, they said,
so that means they didn't even say anything because they were gay themselves.
Exactly. That means the photographer, who was clearly gay, let him do it without warning him because he was being a shit about wearing it around his neck.
Yeah.
Which is an even funnier level that isn't discussed. Like, it's not even like, oh, that fucking photographer let me take the photo like that. It just never discussed that the photographer let him out to dry. It's so fucking funny. What other storylines?
The new female who comes in,
Laura Mills.
Yeah, I don't know how I like her, but I don't remember how long she's on the show. I don't think it's for the rest of the show.
I don't either. And this is coming from, like, I remember this show.
But there's gaps.
I've watched the show before. There are gaps. There are huge gaps.
Like, when Billy dies, I didn't know he was going to die, but I literally got triggered by the cinematography, and I was like, fuck, they're going to kill him. And I was like, Jen, they're going to fucking kill him. And she's like, what?
Really quick, was the winner of Inches.
Yeah, by a whole inch.
Billy,
10 inches.
And that's why he had the beautiful blonde ex-wives and girlfriends, because he had a 10-incher.
I love when Tommy brings in the controller.
Yeah, he's just got it notched off.
Controller.
And then do you notice how Jerry picks it up like this, and he's like looking at it, like, and he puts it down. There's so many subtle little things. Even the interactions, like the stuff that's clearly ad-libbed, like between Tommy and Garrity, and I don't remember what the line was, but he was just by the locker and he said something. It was just like, oh, fucking burn. Like, some of that shit that's in there is just so good.
The new girl recognizes that Tommy is on a spiral immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, she's the only one in the house that has that. I mean, I hate to say it this way, but I'm not saying it's because she's a woman, but she's the only one, maybe she's the only one in the house that has a soul that has any sort of, like, bone for caring for others in her body at all.
Empathetic.
Like, yeah, she's the only one to come in there that feels anything. They're all fucking wretched human beings.
And to her credit, she tries to tell the other team, like, dude, there's something, he's spiraling, and the amount of denial.
Well, see, so Jerry doesn't even flat out deny it. He goes, you know, there's good crazy and there's bad crazy, and right now Tommy's good crazy. Stay away from him. Jerry knows there's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
He's just being ignorant of it because Tommy's still doing his job and he needs men. And Tommy's good at his job, to give him credit. He's a very good firefighter as far as saving people and everything.
He is. Yes. And the only other person to recognize it was Franco, for obvious reasons. At the end of the season, you see what happens.
I still feel Franco's a bit of a cocksucker.
Oh, he is. Yeah, absolutely.
Franco's problem is he knows Tommy right now is alpha.
Yeah.
And the whole season 1 has been Franco challenging that alpha status. Mm-hmm. All the squabbling, all the little comments, it's all Franco being like, yeah, you're top dog for now. And that's, I think, why I don't like Franco. I'm tired of his ego.
Also, it's because instead of, I get you, there's a way that they could all still be bravado men and still be a little caring about, hey, like, you know, if you do have issues, I'm here for you. He's not doing that for Tommy. He was always telling you, what, you a pussy now? You're gonna talk to a fucking shrink?
Like he's a friend.
Never tried to help him.
He's a friend to Garrity, but when it comes to Tommy, it's always that challenging the status. It's always that like, what are you, a pussy? Like, you're Tommy Gavin, I thought. Like, you know, he's got that chip on his shoulder.
Mm-hmm. That's one of my main issues with his character is, like, you know, like that. And plus the way he treated, like, you know, he treated his daughter. And then,
the daughter situation before he went, like, for one thing, he did a stupid thing by kidnapping her from the foster home she was placed in.
Yeah.
But before that, he's total piece of shit about it, where it's just like, I mean, I think the first half of the season, I said I at least applauded him for doing the right thing of, like, he identified that he couldn't take care of her. Right. But then it's like he does the right thing and pulls her from that house and then dumps her on the grandmother, which by the end of the season, his father unfortunately has a stroke. Grandparents can no longer watch her, so she's back with him, and that relationship is only really starting to develop. You know, they're in the store, and, you know, she's with daddy, so she's got all these nice clothes, and he's like, how about we do this one shirt, and you put everything back? And even Garrity's like, oh, that's so cold.
Yeah.
Like, even he tells him, like, oh. Yeah, just
to Garrity's defense, earlier on in the season, Garrity's the only one who's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, that's your fucking kid. So you are right. I will say, despite him being a lunkhead, Garrity may be one of the only other ones besides Proby, but we don't know yet because of his shittiness with the big girl. Garrity might have a heart. I think that's one of his deals, is he may have too much of a heart. He's the softy of the crew, you know? I mean, but he also has boneheaded things like he hits on the new girl, and then she's clearly like, no, I'm not going to have sex with you. It'll never happen. He's like, you don't want to make out a little? To the point where she like storms off. Like, he's just a fucking dumbass.
I do love where he gets his chance and she's like, all right, fine. And then through a series of unfortunate events, she thinks that he said something to the crew and he didn't say shit. It was
and once again,
and then that's like,
that's Jerry snuffing it out. And by the way, when Jerry accosted her about, or when he said, you know, two people are doing something they shouldn't be, he was referencing Tommy and Sheila.
Yeah.
Had nothing to do with them at all. And she took it as that. Yeah, I feel bad for Garrity, where he's like, yeah, I'm gonna go out and take her on a date, and didn't say shit. And then it's like, automatically assumes it was him, and it just shit the whole opportunity for him. She is a good looking girl, and I can understand why that would be hard, because you got to remember, they were talking about like, oh, one's a 7-foot Norwegian and one's a black midget and one's this, and what she was supposed to be the uber gay one, in which Jerry has a very funny line where he's like, trust me, gentlemen, I've seen her. She'll be more of a man than I am any day. I find that just the funniest fucking line out of him, of just like, she's more of a man than I am at any day. It's just like, that's fucking great. Like, that's just hilarious for Jerry, who's kind of a manly man, to just be like, trust me, boys. I thought that was funny as hell. But she's a good looking woman, which, it's already kind of touched upon it. It will become a problem between the Franco and Garrity and her. Like, especially with her hanging out with Franco's daughter while he's in the hospital. I have a feeling something is going to happen there with you know, her and crew members getting close to each other. Whether that means like she fucks up on the job because of it, or it's a lover's try, whatever.
Well, she, already kind of proved in the first episode that we see her in that
she couldn't handle it physically.
Yeah. But she did help them out big time, getting the gay couple out of the tree, and then calming down the gentleman that had just lost his mother, or saw his mother being
craned down
in a safety net because she had passed and was too heavy to be taken downstairs. So
yeah, he starts swinging that halogen.
Was hilarious, where they're pushing her out.
I'm done with the bottom. Yeah, poor girl.
It comes out of nowhere.
She's literally been underneath that fucking sack of shit. Yeah, you got to feel bad for her.
I thought that the body would have been there for a couple days, where they would have like ended up touching him like.
Oh well, Lou did say he lost his watch in there.
Yeah, I thought something like that was going to happen, because I mean that's been known to happen when they find a body that's been sitting there for a while. Oh man, that would have been disgusting if they did something like that.
Oh, I think that would have been That would have been an HBO show. You know what I mean? Like FX was like, yeah, we can push it. Like we'll show banging and everything, but I don't want you putting your arms into a dead body. Any other story? So the daughter is a lesbian in the second half. She's seeing this girl who Tommy, I love, does have an endearing conversation with the girl when she calls, and she's like, just say you're talking to the boy. And she says, he's like, your mother, she's got a huge smile on her face, doesn't she? And she's like, yeah. And basically, like, because his daughter, Colleen, was seeing this girl, but she never told this girl about what happened with the boy that got in the car accident, and that she saw him one final time to tell him we're done. Mm-hmm. So Tommy fixes that. And he's also, because she's a lesbian, is so supportive. Like, he doesn't want to deal with the boys angle at all. He'd rather she be a lesbian.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he's giving her $200 for the weekend. He's letting them stay, hang out at his house. Like, he's all on board with the lesbian trip, which I find hilarious.
Janet's the one who has the issue with it.
She does, yeah.
Well, he's like, come on, you never kissed a couple girls in high school? And she's like, no. And he's like, oh, I thought you did. That kind of ruins things. My wishful thinking, yeah. Like, I don't know. I find, and I really think Tommy and Janet is a good pairing as far as, like, I don't like Tommy and Sheila. I am Tommy and Team Janet, and to be honest. I think Sheila's a level of crazy, and to a certain degree you are taking advantage of her just because she is grieving. But once again, she's a grown woman. She's lonely. Her husband died 3 years ago. She says openly she can't find a male suitor because everybody she knows is a fireman and won't touch her because Jimmy, because of the code.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you kind of feel for her, where she's like, I don't have my husband anymore. I don't have anybody else to develop a relationship with because they won't touch me because of my husband, who isn't here. Like, I'm fucking lonely. Like, you're my closest male companion, Tommy. And that's how their relationship really starts, is they're both alcoholics. They're both in a bad spot mentally, and they combine to join forces and just be super toxic.
One other thing that we didn't talk about, how the guys found out that Tommy was banging Sheila was because of his cousin.
Yep.
Which they've already had at this point one fight, because at the mother's funeral, his cousin priest is basically like, you need to knock it off with this shit and stop seeing her. And they get into a shoving match. I will say
Sheila does come up to the casket or by him, and she's all seductively whispering in her ear, in his ear, while everyone is watching. So I mean, she knows what she's doing.
Oh yeah,
I think.
I will say I do appreciate rough shit Tommy though, because when they get into that little skirmish, you don't ever get the sense that, like, Tommy's a tough guy in that matter. But then when, right after he leaves the empty, or was it after he left the empty house or before? No, after he leaves the firehouse of telling him he wants a transfer.
Dude,
first thing he does, and he just slamming his head through the confessional and beats the shit out of him. It is a badass moment.
For I have sinned.
Yeah, whether it's
so did you.
yeah. Whether it's justified or whatnot, it is. I also love how Lou, come on, you got to tell me, you owe me that much, and he's just.
Yep.
Like, that's how he tells him, and Lou basically says, like, Lou knows who the fuck is he to say anything. He's literally got his own, and he tells him basically, like, life's too short. Do whatever you like doing and do a lot of it, because we may not be here tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the most hauntingly realistic things that those guys probably do think day to day, of just like, I don't live today, tomorrow's not guaranteed. And it's a fucked up way to live, man. That's a hard way to live.
To lose respect, he doesn't poke his nose into other people's business like the others do.
He's not as preachy.
He knows when it's okay to speak and when it's not okay to speak. Like when he has judgment on the situation.
I heard that come out wrong. I just said to lose respect, but you meant to
lose. To lose apostrophe lose.
He's there for a second. I was like, what's he losing respect on?
When he started cheating on his wife, I love Lou. Lou is my favorite character.
I do.
So he's even great. Then I was like, Lou, what are you doing?
I was okay with if he was cheating on her.
Because she's such a cold bitch. Ass. Like the first thing the other girl does is read his poetry and tell him how good it is. Yeah. Meanwhile, his wife is just like, never show this to anybody. It's terrible.
Yeah, she's crying. And
I don't want you with feelings. Right? I just want you to sit here with me, and that's all she wants.
Jen is right. The final scene of the season for Lou shows that he's going downhill with this chick because he tells her she wants a divorce, and her face is like goes from happy to oh fuck, like after she's hugging him. So that's not gonna. Season 2 isn't gonna be roses with him and the girl Sandra, whatever the fuck her name is.
Yeah. No, I feel so bad for him, but. The struggle they all go through, and it stems from the emotional trauma they keep in episode 7 of the second half of this season when they're doing the shrink's porch. They're all going inside to talking to him. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Except for Garrity. Garrity's like such a lughead. He's like, "You're shrink, right? Yeah. Cool."
Yeah, he's got he literally is such a dummy. He's got no problems, just the superficial problems. Also in that whole porch thing, you see Tommy's instability when basically he interrupts the shrink fucking his wife to ask him if he should then fuck his wife.
Yes.
And the shrink's basically like, somebody needs to be doing it. Fucking go ahead, whatever. Takes that as advice from the shrink. Goes and does it. He thinks they're back together. They're not. She informs him of this. And then what does he do? He goes and rips down the entire porch because he blames the shrink for the bad advice. Yeah. That shows you how unstable of a fucking guy Tommy is, besides seeing ghosts.
Yeah. Jesus. He's telling him, grab all the shit. We're taking it over to my house. I'm like, God damn, dude.
Yeah. And it's just like, that was like
$2,000, Tommy.
For real. That was good money.
And they scammed him out of that too. They jacked their price up.
The lumber was like $300. The rest was divvied, and Proby did all the work, for the most part. Yeah. What other story? Anybody else's arc that we haven't touched on? What is there is the episode where they explain the silk to shocker, the 2 in the pink one, and then the one episode they all talk about it. Then by the end of the episode, they've all individually try it while they're having sex.
And Garrity,
conquer of the night.
Well, also, it's the opposite. 2 1 in
the other way.
Yeah, and she's like, no. Then I put the other finger in, and they're like, oh. But when he does it on Janet. And he's like, holy shit, it really does work. Like, they're all trying it that night. Yeah. That and the Inches episode is also hilarious.
It's so funny. Oh, my God.
I love Jerry as well. Like, when they're at the hockey game and he's talking about, like, well, how does she kiss? Was it not too much lips or too much tongue? And he's like, I used to be a player. And it's just like, okay, Jerry. Okay. And he's like, you should see the one I did it with.
Garrity's like, I don't want to hear that.
Yeah, they had that look of like, shut up, Dad. Ew.
Yeah. The other thing that we didn't discuss was how Tommy found the guy who was what's called?
The squatter.
Supposed to be the cause of the fire. Yeah.
The fire that killed Billy, and the whole situation was there was two crackheads that he was going to force the one to go down on him. She fought him off, and a candle knocked over. Mm-hmm. And Tommy loses it, man. What does he do?
He does.
He tells the guys, leave me alone for a second after they were roughing him up a little bit. So the guys go out and he's like, what are you gonna do? Franco's asking, what are you gonna do? He closes the door, he fucking pulls out a little flask of fucking gas. Mm-hmm. Starts pouring all over everything.
Literally starts a fire.
Yeah.
And then leaves the fucking room and leaves the guy in there to fucking die.
Yeah,
and they're all trying to fight him to get in the room, and
but you do see his switch though, like you see his anger, and then once he realizes like, oh fuck, and pulls the guy off and starts to like check him out to see if he's okay, like his entire facial expression goes from like fuck this guy to like fuck, I'm a fireman, You know, it's like they're weird. Like he's not total piece of shit, but his vices are starting to push him in that direction.
Yeah,
and it's sad
he's
that
starting to break.
Franco and Garrity were there to see it. Like they were there to see, like,
and that's why I don't like Franco's ego. But he has been pretty correct on Tommy's behavior. Like he's right in saying to like, you keep this shit up, it's going to cost one of us our lives. He's right.
Yeah.
I mean, as good as a firefighter is, you can't have a loose cannon out there. For me, the most heartbreaking part of Tommy's basically meltdown is losing the guys. Because like with his family, he's already been so distant. Like, yeah, it's going to drive him nuts because they're no longer within across the street. But he's got no family to fall back on. Like, at least if he was still in the house, he'd have the guys to fall back on. And he doesn't even have that now. So you can only imagine season 2 is going to be full-blown into madness for Tommy. Like, it's just going to be bad for him. I really wish we were doing these quicker, because like I only want to watch them in the segments so it's fresh for that segment. But fuck, man, do I want to watch this show. I want to bulldoze through this fucking thing so bad.
No, that's the hard part about it.
Because like you don't want to watch the full season, because, or you especially don't want to watch a season ahead, because then it's like, oh, was that season ahead? Wait, you guys don't remember that? Like, you don't want to have that.
I don't want to do. Yeah, I don't want to pull any information in by accident.
Otherwise, we would be bulldozing this bitch right now. Like it would just take over. Because anything else we forgot? I think anything else we've forgotten to talk about.
I think we covered most of it.
Just trying to. I mean, we've covered all the storylines. Especially the major ones. I think that's a pretty good season wrap up.
Yeah.
If you have any discussion, any questions, anything like that, pop them in the comments. We will be continuing to watch the series. You know, we'll be doing bi-weekly episodes. So you'll have, this is first season, this is a wrap of that, and we're getting right into the season 2 for it. I hope you guys are enjoying it. If you are, please do like the channel. Subscribe to it. Check out the other videos, and I'm going to go ahead and sign off, and I'll see you guys for beginning of season 2.
Season 2.
Can't wait.
In a couple weeks.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.